guys, good morning. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. Thursday, KG's favourite day of the week. Thursday, how we all doing indeed? Not much going on in the world of transfers. Is there? Is it there? We're going to chat about it this morning. How's everybody feeling? How's everybody feeling? This is going to be a fun morning show, isn't it? It's going to be a fun morning show because things are a bit prickly at the moment, aren't they? Things are a bit prickly at the moment when it comes to the difficulty in selling players, when it comes to the difficulty in moving players on, and therefore the difficulty in bringing players in. So we're going to be chatting about that. We're going to be chatting about Wan-Bissaka, a deal that was seemingly felt like it was going to be done to West Ham, now stalling, and what that could mean about the incoming of Mazraoui from Bayern Munich. We'll be chatting about, speaking of Bayern Munich, Matthijs de Ligt and threats to walk away from that deal. We'll also be chatting about midfield options. We're not going to be getting Ugarte, seemingly. Could we be going after Andre? One player we're not going to be going after, seemingly, is Zubimendi, and there was a complete meltdown about that last night, so we'll be chatting about that one. We'll also be talking about this sort of weird rumour that United are going after Ivan Toney, which we're not. I don't think we're going after Ivan Toney. In fact, this morning was a suggestion that Spurs are going to be going after Ivan Toney. So we're going to be chatting about all of it. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let's see what people are saying here in the chat at the moment. Again, there's a lot of opinions, a lot of stuff flying around at the moment. Garsha says, good morning all. Marion says, morning, Owen. Javid says, good morning, Owen and UV fam. Tabrez says, morning, Owen. We've got Joe Blackman in the chat as well. Loads of people getting involved. Kristen's in there, says morning all. Yes. And let me know how you're feeling. Let me know how you're feeling in the chat about things this morning. I'll tell you how I'm feeling before we talk about the Wan-Bissaka thing. I'm not surprised. I mean, I guess everyone processes things differently, right? And everyone emotes their feelings differently. That's fine. But at the same time, I share the sentiment of frustration in the sense of it would be great to be signing more players, wouldn't it? And it'd be great to be going into the season certainly feeling that we were better prepared, and certainly a lot of the areas we hoped we had improved on, that we would bring players in for. And that still could happen. My prediction still has been that a lot's going to happen very, very late on in the window with a lot of clubs. It's been a bit of a quiet window. But we also, I think, have to wrap our heads around, you cannot, just factually, cannot unpick and correct over 10 years of poor transfers, poor contracts, poor management of just the club's finances in one transfer window. It is just physically not possible. And I've seen, from my perception anyway, a lot of kind of misplaced anger. And what that I mean is immediately it goes straight to, Sir Jim, and Sir Dave Brailsford, and Dan Ashworth, and Omar Barada, and Jason Wilcox. Yes, shit. Where's Kenny when you need him? Just
poor, and I mean poor.
And all of you, you're just
disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful.
And the reality is that I hate the phrase already because it's been used so much, but it's true. It's sins of the past, isn't it? It's sins of the past at Manchester United. It's what we've seen for the last couple of years because there's nothing we can do about it. If you're going to, I think, place anger towards individual parties, first and foremost, clearly, again, would still be the Glazers for allowing this to happen. And then it would be against the people that are no longer here for the very reason that they're not very good at their job. So it would go to Ed Woodward. His legacy of his contracts, his transfers that he sanctioned, still linger on. It would be towards Richard Arnold. Same thing. Of transfers and contracts that he sanctioned, still linger on. Of people like John Murtough, who negotiated these kind of transfers, still linger on. And the people that have now just come in their first transfer window have to try and pick that up. And go, what the hell am I going to do with this? And they've run into the same situation that we've run into the last few years, which we've spoken about here extensively. This isn't new information, which is when we think we've got this player that's right. You know, we've got this player they're going to be leaving. Right, it looks like they're going to be going. Then there's complications. Why? They're on big wages. they're on big wages, and whatever club they're going to, they're like, well, I'm not going to be getting those kind of wages, and are you going to kind of pay me off then? We're going to bridge that gap. It's the same thing with Harry Maguire last season. You know, it's the same thing. And by the way, I don't even criticise the player or the players involved in this kind of stuff. They're within their right. They're within their right to be like, no, I don't want to leave. Because why would they? Why would they? They've got no incentive to leave. You know, they've got a great contract at Manchester United. It's not their fault that they were offered a contract that wasn't actually appropriate to their real value or their real contribution to the team. That's on the Glazers. That's on Ed Woodward. That's on Richard Arnold. That's on John Murtough. That's on those people that gave those contracts out. And that's also why, by the way, and I've said this so many times, and I'll keep saying it till I'm as blue in the face as the shirt that I'm wearing right now. That is why when it comes to future transfers, like we had in the past, you know, when it was like, just pay the money. Just pay the money. Forget the wages. I don't care. I don't care what the wages are. Just pay it. If you just do that, you end up in this situation. You end up in this situation right now, which is can't sell them in a couple of years' time. Can't get rid of them in a few years' time. Why? Because we were desperate. We were desperate, and we just said, give them what they want. Give them what they want. Give them the money. And, you know, that's the problem. So this isn't going to be a quick fix. There are going to be very painful transfer windows like this. There are going to be very painful transfer windows for probably the winter window. Lord knows if we're going to even be involved in that again, because we've got no money. Or certainly we're tight when it comes to FFP and PSR. And, you know, we're just going to have to grit our teeth and bear with it until some of these players eventually start leaving via their contracts expiring, or they just eventually decide that they want to leave. But I don't think the anger should be placed towards the people that have inherited all this. Because how is that fair? If you've just bought a house that is breaking down, do you then blame them when the roof starts to cave in after a couple of weeks? You go, well, no, it was collapsing anyway. You know, you're doing your trying best to fix it, but it's going to take time. Like, it's going to take time. And I get that, you know, we're fans. We don't really do the whole patience thing. I put myself firmly in that category. I, like every fan, have my wobbles too. But we can't lose perspective of just how long it's going to take to fix in reality. And even last night with this Zubimendi stuff, I saw, oh my goodness me, complete freak out about that. Whereas in reality, we could never get him this summer unless we sold like 2 or 3 players. If we were going to get Zubimendi, the release clause has to be paid in full. We've just walked away from Ugarte, who's actually technically cheaper than Zubimendi, or around a similar price. Not going to happen. It's just not. It'd be great to have, obviously, but it just it's not going to happen, is it? You know. And on top of that, as well, I've seen some just falsehoods. Liverpool have done this one overnight. No, they haven't. They haven't signed anyone this summer yet. That'll be their first signing. Clearly, this was not an overnight transfer for them. It's been a long process to get them to that point. So I think that once more, we need to. You can be frustrated, and I am frustrated, like you. I am frustrated, but to take a page out of Marcel's book, you can't get too carried away. And you can't get disappointed, can you? You know what I mean? Just a couple of weeks ago, we're winning the window. You know, we're Man United are back. 2 weeks later, we're in the mud. Nothing's going to change. Manchester United are going to get relegated. I mean, goodness gracious. I'm not sure I can handle those kind of up and downs if that's what it's going to be like every 2 weeks. So that's where Man United are at the moment. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But let's get into this Wan-Bissaka stuff. So the situation as of right now, according to Mike McGrath from the Telegraph, I think that is suggesting that it's not been possible for West Ham to thrash out a deal for Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Kieran Trippier is now on their radar, West Ham's, not ours, for the right-back position. So it looks like possibly, this one might be stalling or slowing down, which again is no real shock because it's just the latest. I tell you what, if I'm West Ham, I'm never getting involved with Man United again. because that's 3 players over the course of 12 months where it looks like they've got to what they think is close to the finishing line, and then it's like, well, you know, might be looking for a little bit of a payoff. Well, you know, I'm kind of it's a bit difficult. You know, I suppose this one still could happen, but when I saw that last night, it did pique my interest in the sense of I thought to myself, well, that's very interesting when you think about what David Ornstein was reporting, because we spoke about how just different some of the sort of narrative was from different journalists surrounding this particular deal, wasn't it? So you had sort of Fabrizio Romano, Florian Plettenberg, who were maybe coming at things from more sort of the Bayern Munich end of things, or maybe and I'm back. I don't know why it does that. I don't know why it does that. Well, it just, you know what it is? It drops for like 10 seconds, and I know it's going to come back. I know it's going to come back. I don't know why it does that. But I was saying, just like the Wan-Bissaka deal, my connection stalls for 5 seconds. It's so annoying. Anyway, as I was saying, you've got things coming from the Wan-Bissaka Bayern Munich side of things. Like, it's going to happen. It's going to be close. Blah blah blah. Just a couple of details. I did find it a bit curious that there was some suggestion of personal terms have been agreed. It's just figuring out the fee. And then others were like, no, it's the fee that's actually agreed in principle. It's just the personal terms that need to be figured out. Very odd. And then suddenly you have David Ornstein on the other side of things says. No, you know, it's Wan-Bissaka wants Inter Milan, and that there have been intermediaries that are sort of looking at a possible swap deal with Denzel Dumfries, and Wan-Bissaka would prefer that move. So maybe he was coming at it from the Wan-Bissaka side of things. So the moment yesterday I saw that report in the evening going, the deal might be stalling a little bit, or, you know, they're having trouble, maybe West Ham might be looking at other targets. I thought to myself, well, maybe there is quite a lot of weight then in what David Ornstein is saying there. Maybe it is, once again, because, I mean, if we take a step back and look at this sort of saga involving Aaron Wan-Bissaka, it is quite bizarre, because it starts off with West Ham agree a fee with Bayern Munich for Mazraoui. Right, that bit happens. And by that point, we were interested in Mazraoui. But West Ham agree a fee with Mazraoui. Then, that falls through, and they go, we can't... Well, was it a fee? But it looked like they had agreed something. They'd agreed something with Bayern Munich for Mazraoui. Then that kind of collapses, and it's like, right, they're pivoting to Wan-Bissaka. By that point, it had been reported that Wan-Bissaka had rejected West Ham's, but so... When it was like, they're going to go back in for him, it's like, but I thought he rejected that club. Anyway, that carries on, and then it looks like it's going to happen. Then you get some stuff in the meantime going, well, Wan-Bissaka would prefer a move to Inter Milan. Then you get a thing a couple of days ago going, Denzel Dumfries isn't going to sign a new contract. And he's interested in Manchester United. So maybe the delay here really is Wan-Bissaka once again sort of going, if I was to move, I'd want to maybe move to Inter Milan instead. And maybe that's the deal that Man United have to do. Bear in mind, the deal that Manchester United would prefer to do is Mazraoui. So it just, I mean, how overly complicated does that sound? You know, it's ridiculous, really, isn't it? So it's just the latest of deal stalling, deal slowing down, the difficulty in moving players on. I mean, we spoke about it yesterday from Wan-Bissaka's perspective, thinking about it from the player perspective. I know from the fans' point of view, we're just like, just go. We just want to bring in signings. We just want to move on. We just want to prepare for the season. From Wan-Bissaka's point of view, I get it. If there was the option of going to Inter Milan or West Ham, from a footballing point of view, you'd want to go to Inter Milan. I mean, obviously, I know, look, he's a London guy, and you would think go back to West Ham, be back in London, all that kind of stuff. But if it's purely from a footballing point of view, do you want to go to West Ham, who I know are spending money this summer, and I know they've got Lopetegui, and they're trying to do what West Ham do every 2 or 3 years, which is they've had the safe manager that keeps them stable for a while, then they go with the progressive manager, then things fall down a bit, and then they go back to the stable manager. They are on that ever-living cycle. But if you're Wan-Bissaka, would you want to go to them, or would you want to go to, you know, Serie A winners, Champions League finalists a couple of seasons ago? I think you'd probably where you want to go. You'd probably want to end up going to Inter, wouldn't you? Not a bad move for him. Now, I still sort of am curious how he would fit in Inzaghi's system. I think they play wing backs. This whole thing about Denzel Dumfries coming to United, isn't it? Of going, he's more of a wing back, not so much of a right back. How would that really work when we're playing a back four? There's lots of sort of how would things fit on both sides of that one, isn't there? But when it just comes back to this Wan-Bissaka one, will it happen at this point? Who knows? I mean, who knows of anything? I mean, I said this a couple of weeks ago when things were going well. Anything is possible. That still stands, by the way. Anything is absolutely possible in this transfer window for Manchester United, positively or negatively. I mean, could Wan-Bissaka go? Maybe. Could he go to Inter? Sure. Could he go to West Ham? Why not? Why not? Of course he could. Could he stay? Who fucking knows at this stage, really? Because every other day it's different. And I don't know if you've seen this too, guys, but with this kind of now an extra level of uncertainty that started to surround Man United sort of transfer plans, this is when the sort of more wild transfer stories that probably aren't true have started to filter back in. What was good 2-3 weeks ago was that those kind of nonsense stories had really subsided. You remember in more recent transfer windows, every other day you'd get some kind of just ridiculous story that you knew wasn't true, you knew was bullshit, and we'll kind of get into it a bit later on, I think, with the Ivan Toney stuff, but you knew it's just not true. It's just one of those ones where it's like, let's make a story, Man United, boom. That had kind of slowed down, but now with the sort of vacuum of real news, it's like they've just everything, particularly midfielders. Midfielders, it's the worst. It's every midfielder you can possibly think of is like being thrown and linked to Manchester United. This one. And then what that does lead to, by the way, is when we don't get that midfielder that we were linked to, that we were never going to get, we get really upset because we didn't get that player that we weren't actually going to get anyway. And it just sort of stokes up more frenzy, doesn't it? And frustration. So as far as the Wan-Bissaka deal, who knows? I think he'll probably play now at this point of the weekend because we'll need him, really. It's only a few days to go until the Community Shield. I mean, there's going to be a preview coming out later today with Flex and myself chatting about that game. And how's everybody feeling about it as well? I'm a bit... I mean, I'll save it for the preview, but I suppose a bit of a spoiler. I don't know how I'm really feeling about the Community Shield, in all honesty. I mean, obviously, there's... whenever you play Man City, there's this feeling of, oh, you're going to get, you worry, rather, that you could get absolutely smashed. But I don't think we will. Because I have still a stronger team out than we've seen in pre-season. And by the way, when it comes to this Wan-Bissaka deal possibly stalling, surely there's lots of people out there that are very happy about that, right? Right? Because I'm pretty sure there were quite vocal complaints. About the possibility of, heaven forbid, him getting sold. So I'm waiting for the celebrations. That he could possibly stay. This is good. I remember I saw those things going, I've never been so devastated upon hearing the news that Aaron Wan-Bissaka might be leaving Manchester United. We've made a massive mistake here. Well, cool. But then just remember that when we can't bring in another right back or another full back. You have to remember that one. They have to keep that in mind. Indeed. We've got over 1,000 people watching. If you haven't already, click the like button. Let's see if we can get it up to 500 likes this morning. We're nearly halfway there for that, so that is terrific. Super chat here from Amanor. It says, Marcel believes Ineos are shagging the manager. Well, look, the full view will be back next week, by the way, so we'll hear hopefully what Marcel has to say about all that. I'm sure if you asked Erik ten Hag, and there is going to be a press conference, I think today, the timings. I mean, it says there 5 o'clock. I think some suggestion that might be like 4:30. We shall see, because sometimes they kind of just get announced a couple of hours before, so we'll see. But I think it's today. Obviously, when asked in this press conference, if he was asked, are you happy with the business that you've done, and are you hoping to do more? He'll say the same thing that he always will say, which is, big club like Manchester United, you always have to be open to doing deals when you can, and we'll see if we can do any more. But I don't really comment on that kind of thing. But I'm sure if you asked him privately, off the record, of course he would want more. He's always wanted more. Even when we have spent money, he's wanted more. So I'm sure that he would want more. But I think also it does. I mentioned this yesterday in yesterday's transfer view. Those reports suggesting that Sir Jim Ratcliffe had kind of played down the sort of expectations for this season to Erik ten Hag and just sort of said, look, I just want to see some better football. I think looking at the market and looking at the money that we don't have and looking at the difficulty it is going to be to move some of these players on, I think you probably see why there's been a sort of playing down of expectations. I think there's this expectation that it should be better than last season, because hopefully, fingers crossed, who knows, we should have less injuries than we did last season. Therefore, logically, you would think it should be better because you'll have better players available more often. But in terms of this idea of bridging the gap, probably not. Probably not. And again, that's going to take time. It's going to take time. And I know that time is not a manager's luxury, certainly. But yeah, it's gonna. You don't unpick 10 years of mismanagement, bad transfers, and bad financial decisions in one transfer window. Yeah, indeed. Let's move on. Let's keep it light. let's keep it light and talk about another transfer that may or may not happen when it comes to Matthijs de Ligt. Could Manchester United walk away from this deal? Well, according to Give Me Sport, we could. They're saying that Manchester United are threatening to walk away from negotiations with Bayern Munich as they will not entertain bowing to the Bundesliga giants' demands for Matthijs de Ligt in the coming days, despite being determined to lure the centre-back to Old Trafford. Manchester United are seriously considering ending discussions over a move for de Ligt, as it's been decided they will continue refusing to meet Bayern Munich's £43 million demands, despite the German heavyweights expecting his suitors to edge closer to their valuation this week. Manchester United are adamant that they have made fair advances for de Ligt, who would provide further cover in Euro's absence, as they are aware that he is not at the forefront of new Bayern Munich head coach Vincent Kompany's plans, and they want to get his wages off the books. I don't think they're going to walk away from the de Ligt deal. I don't think they're going to walk away from the de Ligt because they can't, really. I mean, I think that this one still will happen. To be honest with you, the price involved, like 43 million quid, maybe you could get it down to like 40. I don't even think it's that bad at all. It's just we just don't have any money. We don't have any money. The reason Manchester United are trying to haggle and lower it down is because they want to get it closer to a monetary figure that's actually in their budget. The players need to go first, and that's the problem again. So I think that's also why you're seeing stuff about Jadon Sancho start to heat up about him possibly leaving, because I think there is an element of panic within the sort of football leadership team of Manchester United going, we had earmarked certain players that we'd hoped maybe we could sell, like your Casemiro, maybe like your McTominay, or maybe your Lindelof, and nothing's happening. We assumed Saudi are going to be coming in. Didn't happen. So we've got to sell someone. We have to sell someone. And once you get later on in the window, then you start looking around and go, right, who's got people that are actually interested in them? And if it's Jadon Sancho, then it's going to be Jadon Sancho, isn't it? And I suppose the challenge that they might have is that if, let's say, a PSG know Manchester United need to sell because they need to do business in other positions, that's when it can be quite difficult to negotiate a half-decent fee, because your leverage is kind of gone then, isn't it? Your leverage is kind of gone, and you'll take what you can get. So I don't think they'll walk away from the De Ligt deal, because I think this is a deal that United have to do. You know, Leniora is out for 3 months, and even if he wasn't, you would still be, as we've seen, one injury away from falling back on your, your Maguires and your Lindelofs and your what have you. So we need that extra cover, and we need those extra players in there. So I think it will be late. I don't think it will be imminent or anything like that. But I do think eventually we will put the bid in that will be closer. I do think there will be compromise, and I do think we'll eventually get him. But this kind of leans into my previous prediction, which is it's that stuff's going to happen late. Stuff's going to happen late in the window. And it's going to be quite chaotic. And that's not just for Man United. I think that's going to be for quite a few clubs too. But I mean, I did find that that story last week about the double bids. I did find that to be quite odd, because at the time I remember saying to you guys, going, "Where have Man United got the money from for that one? Where have they found the money for that deal? Because we know that we don't have it. So what are we? What? Where was that? Was that an assumption that they thought that McTominay was going to be sold, and then that didn't happen? Was that again? Where did they find that cash? And obviously it got rejected. But I said I don't think we will walk away from this one, just because it's too desperately needed. I think it's too desperately needed, and I think United will eventually do it. But I just don't think it will be super immediate. And I do think that there'll have to be some sort of give and take between both Man United and Bayern Munich. But I mean, I think again, I look at 42 million quid and go for someone like Matthijs de Ligt, 25 years old, a lot of experience in today's market. I don't think that's completely extortionate. I do think that if what David Ornstein was reporting last week is accurate, that De Ligt and Mazraoui had been told, if a bid does come in, we'll compromise, and we'll try and figure it out, and we'll try and get this one over the line, then maybe Bayern Munich will sort of bend a little bit, I suppose. But there does appear to be a gap, shocker, as we've seen all summer, a gap in the valuation with this one. But I don't think Man United will walk away. I don't think so. We've walked away from a couple of deals, rightfully so, by the way. We walked away from Jared Branthwaite because Everton were asking too much. It was too much money. It was 70-odd million. Ridiculous. We've walked away from the PSG Ugarte deal because they were asking too much. But again, I think Man United and Ineos were right to do that, because they wanted to get the same price pretty much that they paid for him last year, which is ridiculous. But around 40 for Matthijs de Ligt, I don't think is too unreasonable. So I do think eventually that one will happen. But again, goes back to being able to sell those players. And again, I think it goes back to we have to live in the reality and not misplace our anger at people that are actually trying to rectify and fix the problems. Instead of blaming them, the blame should firmly stand with, again, the people that still the majority owners of the club, the Glazers, and two, the people that are no longer here, and their legacy of their time at Manchester United is doing terrible deals. Is signing off on massively overinflated contracts, and the problem is they last for a long time. A lot of the time, they outlast the person who actually signed off from the deal. 5-year deals, 6-year deals on big wages. I mean, you can't do anything about it. Can't do anything about it. Got can try and force them out, but if they're gonna dig their heels in, what are we gonna do? And that's not to say then the responses are just lay down, take it, sort of thing. You're not allowed to be upset. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that we also have to, again, live in reality. Have to live in the reality of what it is. I've seen people be like, Ineos out, they're just more Glazers, blah, blah, blah. Which, by the way, they were the same people that 2 weeks ago were praising them. My goodness me, we've done the whole flip-flop thing over and over again, haven't we? And we just want to act like it was completely on them, which I don't think is particularly fair. I don't think it is. I think they would probably now with their, and to be honest, this is why it was important that those guys were in, not later on in the transfer window, because I think they would have learnt a lot. I think they would have learned a hell of a lot in this transfer window about just some of the challenges and trials and just how bad Manchester United has been run for 10 years. Of they're like, we had ambitions to sell Casemiro. We had ambitions to sell, McTominay. We had ambitions to sell Maguire and Lindelof. And even Wan-Bissaka, we thought that was going to be an easy one. We had ambitions to sell those players. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. And the groundwork, or even more work, will have to be done on those deals, even outside of this transfer window. So maybe in January they go, or maybe next summer they go. That's what. That again. I think it'll be a massive reality check for them. But I think that the idea of this, the blame's totally on. It's completely their fault. Completely their fault. They've screwed this all up. You go, really? Because I'm sure somewhere Ed Woodward's laughing, going, yeah, glad they're not blaming me, because it was him. It was Richard Arnold. I mentioned this before. Do you know how mad it is? Richard Arnold, right, was in that pub doing the whole burning through cash thing. We've burnt through cash. And I walk around Carrington and I go, where is it all? Where is it all? I can't see it. He said that, and then just like weeks later, signed off on deals to sign Casemiro for 70-odd million pounds on like a 4-year contract. Signed off on the deal to sign Anthony for 86 million pounds, 200k a week. He said that after. Said, we're burning through cash. And he burnt through some more. Why? Fuck it. We're doing it anyway. Let's just do it. What? Or John Murtough was involved in those negotiations too. It's like, what? That is madness. Absolute madness. And you wonder why when Ineos came in, they went, we are not keeping these guys. We are not. Look at their track record. Look at their track record. Why on earth would we have these guys anywhere near any of these transfers or finances again? That's mad. It's mad. And I remember one of the first reports of Sir Jim Ratcliffe when he was looking through the books at Manchester United, but looked at the Casemiro deal specifically. That was the one that came out. And he looked at it and went, who would do this? Like, who would do this? Why would you sign off on this deal? No disrespect to the player, but what on earth? Who would do this kind of deal? And now we sit here and wonder and blame Ineos, going, why can't we sell players? Why have we got no money? Well, I wonder why. I wonder why we don't have any money. It's going to take time to fix all that, isn't it? There's some things that are kind of quick fixes. You can start work on the training ground. Carrington, work's underway. You can start a task force about working out the stadium. That's going to take a lot longer, but you can start work on it, and people can see that. People can see that with their eyes. They can see the construction at Carrington and be like, right, I can process that's going to take some time, because building takes time. So I can see that, or I can see that stadium is a big structure. It's going to take a lot of time, all that kind of stuff. It's stuff when you can't see it. That's the frustrating thing, I suppose, isn't it? Because you just assume that then nothing's being done. But those things are going to take a lot of time. It just is. And can you imagine? I don't think Omar Barada, we've heard about him. He had the obsession to get the Lenny Yoro deal done. It was his new obsession. You think he's happy that the players that he thought we'd be able to sell, we can't sell? Or he's probably looking at it coming from Manchester City and going, look again how these previous guys were running this club. Look at it. Look how they were running this club. Oh my God. He probably talks to his friends at Man City going, yeah, like, you won't believe the shit show that I've had to walk into here. You won't believe it. It's going to take a lot of time to fix all that kind of stuff. So there is anger. Of course there is. There is frustration. But I think it has to be guided and directed at the right people. And if those guys had run Manchester United so well and had done such great transfer business and given out great contracts, flexible contracts, they'd probably still be in a job at the moment, because Ineos would have come in and be like, oh, can't get rid of them. Have you seen the work they've done? They're brilliant. They're great at what they've done. Can't get rid of them. They're fantastic. Well, they haven't. They're not in a job anymore, and there's a reason why they're not in a job anymore, because they looked at that and went, this is madness. This is absolute madness. So, that's the frustration. So to circle back to the De Ligt one, I don't think United will walk away from it. I do think this one will eventually get done, but I really stress the eventually on that. And look, anything's still possible. Indeed, anything is still possible. We got over 1,200 people watching. We're on our way to 500 likes. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well. On the road to 174,000. A reminder, there's quite a lot actually coming up today. Match previews coming out at 12 o'clock, coming out at midday. Fleck and myself chatting about the game on Saturday. I tell you what, it comes around so quickly, doesn't it? It is, it feels like only yesterday. Wow. It doesn't, I suppose, doesn't it? But it only feels like yesterday that, it was the FA Cup final and it was the celebrations, and my goodness me, the build up to that week. That was fun, wasn't it? Erik ten Hag's last game. He's going to get sacked either one way or the other. That's what it's going to be. And then and then we win. And then we have however many weeks it was, what was it? Like 3 or 4 weeks? Isn't he going to stay? Isn't he going to stay? Talks of other managers, blah, blah, blah. But now we're back. Football is back. Of course, the championship starts this weekend as well. So football is club football, shall we say, is indeed back. So yes, that's coming up at midday. As I mentioned, I think the press conference is today for that. And of course, if it is, I'll be live for that. We'll be going through all of the quotes and all the things that Erik ten Hag has to say. Indeed, I think if you're probably looking for any sort of juicy scoops from him, you'll probably be quite disappointed, because he just won't say that. He never does. It'll be, again, the same as it usually is, which is you have to decipher whether or not he's sort of telling the truth or not, basically, which is, oh, that one's not true, that one is true, that one is true, that one isn't true. That's an Erik ten Hag presser, basically. So we'll be chatting about that, and also what the devil is coming out later on today. Probably if the press conference is at 4-ish and I'll be live at 5, it'll probably be out at 7 or something like that. So stay tuned for that one. Make sure you subscribe and keep an eye out on all the timings too. What are people saying in the chat at the moment? Z says Ineos literally scammed us, Owen. They are no different than Woodward & Co. I completely disagree, obviously, because I just think that's very misplaced, but I think that is just reactionary anger, in all honesty. Lil Yo-Yo says no point being mad, let Ineos handle the mess and then judge afterwards if nothing has changed. I think that you'd probably be looking at when to fully judge them, and I know people won't like this because it's a long time away, but it probably would be at the end of next year's summer window, in all honesty. It would be a full year of being able to do transfers, also known as the Vavell cycle. He's in for this window, the winter window. Whether or not he'll be involved for next year's window, we shall see. But that would be probably the time. But again, I know that people, that's just unacceptable to some people. They'll be like, no, I'm judging them right now, based on other people's mistakes of the past. And this is the other thing too. It's when you say stuff like this, then that turns into you're just an Ineos defender. You're just so you're saying you're happy with what you're seeing right now. Of course. Oh yeah, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled with what I'm seeing at the moment. I'm really happy. Man United haven't signed more players, and I'm really happy that we're going into the game at the weekend. And the ironic thing is, we got a weaker team than we had playing against City last time. I'm thrilled about that. Of course I'm not. I want Man United to win. I want them to be back to what I grew up watching, which was Man United winning all the time, playing good football. But then I also have to, pinch myself and realize that we're living in the real world. We're living in reality. It is Thursday, the 8th of August. It's 9:44. And you can't fix things just overnight, just magically. I mean, I'm not wearing my Infinity Gauntlet. I can put my Thanos voice on, but I can't do what Thanos did and just snap our fingers and Manchester United are back. That's why it's ludicrous when we sign two players to say Manchester United are back, because they're not. Because you can't do that in one window with a couple of signings. That's not that you can't. It's impossible. It's impossible to do that. It will take time to fix all of those things, and that's not to say that, again, you have to just sit there and not be unhappy or not or just sit there and take it. That's it. This isn't Football Manager. You can't just that's the other one. That is the one that I think is funny, when it's just this. Well, why don't we just rip up the contracts? Why don't we just do that? Yeah, let's just do that. Let's just rip up the contracts. Still wouldn't help us at all from an FFP perspective, because we would have paid off the contract and we'd be down a player and we still wouldn't be able to buy the replacement. Let's just do that. Let's just rip up the contracts. Let's just do that. That'll work. Again, because it's not Football Manager. It's not Football Manager. It's not FIFA, as KG would say. It's the real world. And the real world sometimes is a bit shit, isn't it? Now let's talk about the midfielders, because as I mentioned, we've been linked to like a million since this Ugarte situation kind of collapsed a bit. One's been Andre from Fluminense, and this comes from Tim Vickery, who's obviously a very credible South American football expert. I really like listening to Tim Vickery. He really does know his stuff. He has said it's possible that Manchester United could enter the race to sign Andre. Fulham have offered 20 to 25 million pounds, which has been rejected by the club, and their pursuit could now be complicated by Manchester United's interest. Of course, he was one of the players that was kind of linked to United as a bit of an alternative when this Ugarte deal fell through, or United walked away rather from this deal the other day, and he was certainly perceived as being a bit of a low-cost option. The irony is, of course, we could be competing with Fulham for a midfielder when they were looking to buy our midfielder in the first place. Once again, I'm sure that there probably is interest, but it just once again comes back to, where are we going to find the money? I think I would still hinge on a Scott McTominay being sold, would it not? And if Fulham have walked away, I'm not sure how that one's going to happen, in all honesty. That's why I'm looking at like Jadon Sancho going. Honestly, I think a Jadon Sancho sale at this point is like Manchester United's hope for a lot of these issues, because they had hoped that McTominay was going to be sold, and maybe Fulham will circle back. That's why it is also important to consider. I know that obviously our first game is on Saturday, and the first game of the season is next week. So obviously there's a time issue and there's pressure of time, and you want to go into the season as prepared as you possibly can, and I get that, I understand that, but there is still time until the end of the window. There is still time until the end of the month, and with the beginning of the Premier League season does come injuries, realization that people are short in certain positions, or certain players don't play the first few games and then they panic they're not going to play all season, and that leads to late transfers or last minute loans and things like that. So there is still, I think, a lot of stuff to happen for a lot of clubs, by the way. Still a lot of things to happen for a lot of clubs. So to say that Fulham won't come back in for McTominay, I don't know if we can properly say that, because they might not be successful with their other midfield targets, and then, or they might have more discussions with United, and suddenly things look look more likely. So there is still time with all of that, but I feel like the closer to reality situation of what could happen with United with these transfers, outgoings and incomings, is Wan-Bissaka, I think, still does leave. I think we're still looking at reality where he does leave. It's just a case of whether now he goes to West Ham or does this Inter Milan swap become a thing. So I still think Wan-Bissaka leaves, and I still think we do get in a fullback. Whether that is Mazraoui, whether that is Dumfries, and, you know, we shall see what happens with that one. I think what could happen now is Jadon Sancho does get sold, and that Sancho fee primarily goes towards De Ligt, and then whatever money's left over goes towards a midfielder. Won't be a lot left over. Goes towards a midfielder, which might be a loan or something like that. I could see something like that happening. But anything's possible. Anything's possible. And I say the Sancho one, that could go quiet. It's gone quiet before. You know, in this window, how many times is it suddenly it's like, oh, Juventus, they might go after him. Quiet. PSG, they might be interested in him. Quiet. PSG, they might be interested, but there's no real talks. Quiet. So maybe as the season starts once again, then things start to pick up a little bit. I just have a feeling we are in for a really, really busy end of the window. Possibly a deadline day kind of thing. I think that is going to be very, very busy. And United aren't alone in that. I think there's going to be a lot of late signings across the transfer window. So we shall see. How many likes are we at the moment? We're at close to 1,200 people watching, which is fantastic. We are 9 likes away from 400. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Let's see if we can get it to 500 before we wrap things up. So yes, click the like button indeed. Finally, there's this Ivan Toney stuff. With, you know, I don't really see it, to be all honestly. There was a suggestion yesterday that Manchester United remain interested in signing Ivan Toney. Brentford could be tempted to sell for around £40 million. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier on when I was saying in this talk about, you know, United panicking or not being able to get signings, then you just start getting kind of stupid stories going out there. I mean, we can't afford. You're telling me, yeah, I'm telling you now, Fleck. You're telling me that we are haggling over £42 million for Matthijs de Ligt, and we're not going to do that deal. We're not going to do that one. We're going to go buy Ivan Toney for £40 million. That's what we're going to do. Of course we're not. We've already signed a striker this hour. Now again, if we did have a lot of money, you'd be looking at it going, oh, Ivan Toney, £40 million. Go do that deal. But it's not even anywhere near the top of the priority list, is it? We're looking at centre-back, midfielder, full-back. To be honest, and we're probably looking at getting a right-back, but we should be looking at getting a left-back. Even before we even think, I'd actually be saying a couple of midfielders before you'd be even thinking about Ivan Toney. So I don't think that this one's happening. I mean, this morning there's been suggestions that I think Spurs are interested in Ivan Toney. They're in the market for a striker. I think they were looking for Dominic Solanke. Maybe they might turn their attention to Ivan Toney. Manchester United are not signing Ivan Toney in this window. I would be flabbergasted. I mean, I know I said anything can happen. You know, anything's possible, and it is. But this would really be stretching it, wouldn't it? Of the anything is possible, because this would be so far out of left field at this point that I think, in fairness, if they did that signing, I think you probably could actually question Ineos at that point and sort of go, what? I mean, where's the flex button again? I mean, there's so many I could press.
Wake the fuck up!
I could press that one.
What the fuck are you talking about?
There you go. I could do loads of them. I got like 10 million different HUs as well.
Huh?
Because you would rightfully so say, wait a minute. So we need a you'd rightfully so say.
No, wait a minute, wait.
You'd rightfully so say, we've just we're talking about we need a centre back and a full back and a midfielder, and we'll buy Ivan Toney. Why are we doing that? Now we've got 3 strikers on the books, but we're still really light centre back. It would make no sense, no sense at all. So yeah, I'd be very surprised in that. We do have some possible breaking news right at the end of the show, folks.
Breaking news.
Coming from Dharmesh Chef in the last couple of minutes, he is saying that Manchester United have held initial talks with Burnley over midfielder Sander Berg. United are exploring the conditions of a deal. 3 years left on his contract. The dialogue is open with Monaco over Youssouf Fofana after initial approach. Final year of his contract. So maybe those Sander Berg comments links get a bit stronger. Youssouf Fofana, they might be the ones that Manchester United are looking at. Once again, I would go, where's the money? Where's the money coming from? But United are still, I guess, looking at those deals. So we shall see, indeed, how they do play out. Also, shout out to Flex. He's on Sky Sports today, so if you haven't already, check him out on there. And a reminder, there's several things coming up later on today. We've got the match preview coming up at 12. You should actually be redirected to that already after this stream. So, yeah, I mean, you can set yourself a reminder or something like that to watch it. I think there is the press conference coming out later today. I'll be live for that one too. And What the Devil coming out later on this evening. So be sure to check all those out. And of course, if anything else happens in between all of that, I shall be here and we can go live and discuss all of it. So there you go. And hopefully, we can talk about something positive when it comes to transfers. I hope so. Anyway, guys, I'm out of here. Peace.